We're
Hey,
live.
everybody.
Hey, everyone.
What's up?
So, it's your boy, Juan, JJ.
Terrence.
I'm Jackson.
Yeah.
And this is our guest for today,
Yeah.
the man of biology.
Yeah. So, what would you say your official title is, Jackson? What would you call yourself, dude?
I'm a PhD student who focuses on evolution in animals that have larval and adult stages.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. But we
I don't know if we went into any of that today, but
no, we brought him on as the evolutionary
Yeah.
specialist.
we kind of pushed Jackson's limits today by asking him questions a little bit outside of his
Unrelated
field.
to his-
Yeah.
yeah.
But he's our bio guy, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
went to him. But
we talked a little bit about your experience in Japan, right?
Yeah. we talked
how that
about
was.
some Tinder, of course.
Dating.
Yeah, Tinder, dating, and
what-
biology.
Yeah. Try to tie that in. And
Yeah.
then-
What else did we talk about? Jackson, do you remember?
A little bit of capitalism.
Yeah, a little bit of
we tied
capitalism.
we tied that
Population
into
growth.
population growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, so there's some interesting topics in there for
Yeah.
sure. I guess guys, make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Mm-hmm.
Also, leave us a comment, a like, and a share. Give us a share.
Yeah.
And also follow us on Twitter. So we're at Eigenbros on Twitter.
Yeah. Doing numbers on that. Jackson, you want to plug anything?
Yeah.
No,
No Twitter.
I don't have anything to plug.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
stay tuned, guys. It's going to be good episodes. So check us out.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome to new episode of Eigenbros Z.
Da, 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 da,
Nah, what was the best?
da.
No, the best intro was the one that was like the
Rock the Dragon.
Yeah. There you go. Rock the Dragon.
On the last episode of Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
That shit was hard, huh?
Yeah. The solo was epic.
Yeah,
too.
it was.
Yeah.
And then had a badass intro with the guy like
running
tearing
the
through
dragon.
the plane and whatnot.
What?
You remember the bald guy?
Krillin?
No, the big beefy bald guy who was in Vegeta's gang.
Oh, Nappa.
Yeah, Nappa. He was tearing through the airplane. It was badass.
I don't remember that one. I just remember the one where Goku's running on the dragon.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was like a cut of a bunch of different intense scenes.
I see. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Dragon
was
Ball Z for people with a life.
I'm pretty sure, dude. Everyone in our age group has seen Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah,
But some
guaranteed.
people watch this who aren't in our age group.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I
the
guess
thing
so.
is, even if they didn't watch Dragon Ball Z is by far and large the most widespread
Anime right?
ever.
If you're American, like for
Well, if
sure.
you're Japanese too, when I was in Japan, like it was
Legit.
Dragon Ball Z everywhere.
Damn.
And they had some more stuff. Like I saw Final Fantasy VI stuff. I heard some music from it playing. That game came out in like 1994, and you will never hear about that in America.
Yeah.
But still,
That's funny.
Dragon Ball Z was still a lot of places when I was in Japan.
I see.
How was Japan? Are there Gundams there and shit?
Man, Japan,
They have a big Gundam though, right?
they do. But the thing is, in Japan, is that as a gaijin, who actually
Wait. For people that don't know, can you define what a gaijin is?
foreigner, gringo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gaijin. That sounds kind of cool.
Gaijin
Ninja
Yaro.
Gaijin.
Gaijin Yaro. So jin means like person, man, or something. So if I want to say I'm American, I say like I say Watashi wa American kanjin desu.
That means I'm
No
American.
clue.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Jackson's
but-
been that Japanese game.
Yeah,
huh?
dude.
Yeah, so my best friend, he knows Japanese. He's married to a Japanese woman, so I actually went with him. And so we kind of got the ins and out of Japan. We got into a lot of places we normally wouldn't be able to get into as gaijin because he knew Japanese and because he had like connections out there.
What were some of the places you got in?
So we went to clubs that normally we probably wouldn't be able to get into.
Damn.
Is it a
So, like,
club? Wink
club
club?
wink,
or-
wink?
Wink, wink. No.
Shrug.
But there was
Shrug.
also there's this thing called I think it was a kabakura, where you pretty much will pay some money to have like an hour to talk to some very attractive women. Like
Oh, I've heard of
Oh yeah, that
these.
sounds like the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
And I agreed. But I was like, we were at
When in Rome, right?
we were hanging out with his wife's, some person related to his wife, and we were sitting down there, and then he actually took us to one free of charge, and I was like, well, sure, let's go ahead.
Well, yeah, dude.
And my friend's sitting there. I mean, it wasn't the woman wasn't his wife at the time, so he was still talking with some of the women in there.
Yeah.
And so he was allowed to do that. But I was in there. I was like, man, I don't know Japanese because it's a place that normally wouldn't take gaijin.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there awkward as hell with a Japanese model, tier-looking woman trying to speak to me with some like language Google Translate thing through the app. Awkward as hell when I'm watching my friend and this dude over there like having the time of their life laughing. With Japanese women sitting on his lap and everything. And I'm over here awkward as hell. Just like,
did you just get the translator and say sucky sucky? And then,
Oh my god.
no, oh my goodness, I don't even know because I was drinking. I got drunk a lot in Japan. I was drinking. I was like, man, I can't even focus. Like I'm just looking around, just like, man.
You just started naming Japanese companies. Sony,
Toshiba.
Honda.
No, you know what? A lot of them thought it was funny because I actually tried to say some things, which is hilarious. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, going to Japan, they're so xenophobic," and that's true. But as a black male in America, I'm used to that sort of shit. So I'm used to not being around.
But maybe not to that level.
Like
not openly.
Well, no. When the Japanese people looked at me, like I felt as though most of the time outside of Roppongi, where they had a lot of Nigerians, and they thought I was Nigerian, they didn't pick me up in the tabs most of the time. I didn't feel as though they treated me any different from like regular white people out there for the most part, except for a few occasions. So
was it like a sense of wonder, like whoa, or is it like enough exposure where it's just like, oh, they already have a misconceptions of like, just from looking at the color of your skin, where they just
weren't like most people didn't even look at me really.
Oh shit!
That many people
so
weren't.
They were just.
It wasn't like spectacle. So when I hear about
wait, so is that like from prejudice, or is it just like a sort of like, oh, you're a foreigner and you're also like this?
I think that they pretty much did that to most people. They're just out there working, living. It's like, imagine if you were in Los Angeles and you saw a bunch of Chinese tourists. You're not going to be like, oh my God, that's a Chinese person.
But the thing is, you're not exposed to that often.
The Japanese?
I'm saying, let's imagine that, I don't know, I saw a group of Native Americans.
Yes.
Then I'm stopping and I'm like, what the fuck?
Actual Native Americans.
Yeah,
like,
actual Native Americans, I'm going to stop and be like, what
in
the
headdress
hell?
and everything.
Well, the thing is, I think that, if this was the 1930s, I bet you would see that. Because we actually went to World War II Museum and they had, a lot of times people didn't see what white people looked like. They didn't know what white people looked like. So oftentimes they would only hear about this from other people. They would say they had horns and they're all big like ogres because they're taller than average.
Yeah.
And so if you actually go to the World War II Museum, before a lot of Japanese people saw Europeans and white people, they would just have like teeth coming out and everything.
Oh, the fucked up teeth.
The white devil.
The demon teeth. So we actually saw that. But nowadays, there's a lot of like when I was out there, they were playing music that was American. You can watch TV shows from America.
Yeah.
If you watch any anime, pretty much every anime nowadays has a black person because they know we exist. I actually talked to a Japanese woman who actually was a fan of the Pistons.
Wow.
The Detroit Pistons.
What the hell?
She was a fan
that's
of the
random.
Pistons, and she was out there. Forgot where we were. We went to Nagoya, Kyoto, Osaka, and Tokyo. My friend hates Tokyo, so we went to other places and stayed there longer. But she was a fan of the Pistons, so they definitely know what black people look and sound like.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, the only black American who's probably safe to go to North Korea is Dennis Rodman. He's like the only American who can just walk into Korea unabated.
Right.
North Korea.
Yeah, true.
He's like an ambassador.
Yeah.
But for no reason.
Just being famous. Like,
That is random as hell. Why Dennis Rodman of all people?
I mean, shoot, they even have basketball. They have basketball anime now.
True.
There's no way they don't know
Yeah.
that black people pretty much dominate basketball. They go to the Olympics all the time. They've been running and seeing black people all the time. It's not like I'm the first black person they've ever seen.
That's true. And they have a real one player that just made the draft. Is kind of sports talk a little bit, but a black Japanese basketball player that like he's elite level. He's very talented, and I think his name is Rory Hakimura, I want to say. And it's like, yeah, so they definitely know because it's like, yeah, he's like, the guy's like, I'm Japanese.
Yeah,
like,
they actually call us Kokojin out there sometimes.
What does that mean?
Kokojin, black man.
Oh,
okay. Like Coco. Oh, okay. I
don't know
like
how to
that.
spell.
Chocolate man.
Yeah, that's what I
Chocolate
figure. But I've heard them calling Coco Gin. They also have like they actually have a version of like the N-word ish thing.
Well, I know Chinese, their N word is black ghost.
Black Ghost.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of
hard.
Yeah,
It's like shadows, shadow man.
Like, I'm
black
what?
ghost.
Like that Black Ghost. That sounds like a name like you choose as your gamer tag. Or something.
Right.
Yeah, or like maybe like a pseudo rap name, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
rap name.
There's
or,
Ghostface.
Oh,
Face
true.
killer,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn,
that's cool.
That is kind of hard.
Black Ghost. But I don't know what I wish I could like phone a friend right now. I think it's like Karambo, but I don't know what that means. But I
Okay.
think,
Isn't that the
to-
name of
but coming from a
I was like, isn't that the name of a fucking pastry? And oh no, I'm thinking bimbo or something.
Bimbos,
Like,
Bimbo bread.
That's
I was
way
like
off one.
Karambo. I was like
Bimbo bread,
Karambo.
but
Why
the
does it
thing
sound
is-
familiar?
The thing is, if a Japanese person calls me it doesn't have the historical context that the actual N-word does, so I don't care, you know?
Right,
Like, I
right.
just kind of think it's funny because, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
It's
the
like,
thing is,
look at
yeah.
my initials are JAP, so I've been using it.
Damn, that's true.
you like you
huh?
just write your initials down. You're like what?
Actually, you know Trevor Noah, the comedian Trevor Noah.
Yes.
He had a special on Netflix where he kind of talked about that, where like he came to America and somebody called him the N-word, but it didn't faze him because like in his culture there is no N-word. It's a different word.
He's from
So-
South America, South Africa.
South Africa.
Africa,
Yeah. So they had some other word, and he was like, it didn't feel like anything to him because,
Yeah.
you know, he has no context of it. So when you're outside of your own culture, you don't really care what the slur is because it doesn't affect
Yeah.
you.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the historical context as well,
Yeah.
you know? Like, yeah. You call me that here in America, but like a bunch of white guys call me that while I'm out there in Soft Choppy or Crawfordville, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah, you're like, oh
It's
fuck.
like, okay, wow, you know, these people still might want to hold down the South. And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
actually might
yeah,
say that it's
100%.
time to change things back to how things used to be.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah, yeah.
scared. If I
MAGA.
see a random Japanese person who gets mad at me for getting all the girls to look at me while I'm in the club, I don't care. I don't care, you know?
Yeah,
But
it's gonna laugh it off.
and
usually.
even if someone denies me to go into like a restaurant or something and he calls me that, I'm like, well, it doesn't carry the same weight
Yeah.
yeah,
because historically, like my family has never been called it. I've been
Yeah.
called those things, but I haven't been like called it by these people in this way.
yeah.
Right.
There's no history of like black chattel slavery in
In
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So it's all fresh and new.
Yeah, it's fucking it's very nuanced. I heard that like in Japan they actually do this like you were saying like you get to sit down and talk to like you get to have like a nice package experience with like
real
these
people.
young ladies, right?
Oh.
But like everything is
The package
is
seems kind of lacking to me.
well,
well, I just heard I
Continue.
heard everything is so commercialized. Like almost everything is a transaction. You know, like you don't pay. Like you can pay to have a dog, for instance. Like
Yeah, you can pay to like have a family and
or
stuff.
just shit
yeah.
like that,
yes,
dude.
you can
Did
pay to go on dates with people. They actually women out in Japan actually will pay to go on dates with like the male, you know, like those male models with the
Yeah.
wispy hair and stuff.
Yeah,
Mm.
They actually had advertisements for that at a lot of places.
dude.
So they can braid their hair later or something.
So did you jump on Tinder while you were there?
No.
You just like no.
No.
Well, because there, I remember seeing a study about how like apparently Asian men score like the least desirability on like what is that the
Tinder,
on
OkCupid.
every like
Yeah, and also so like they say at the bottom it goes, if I recall correctly, at the bottom Asian men, then second worst is black females, then third worst is black males.
What about Indian?
Indians count within Asian, and that's
Oh, okay.
yeah they're kind of lumped into
they're still
the
Asian,
Okay.
and they also include Pacific Islanders there
Mm.
as well. So
And black males are low?
yeah, dude,
I'm actually shocked by that.
we
Yeah,
keep
I
telling
kinda-
you the statistics on this. We're not just bullshitting you. You can look at it.
That's because we spit that game in real life, bro.
No, it's because there's still a lot of racism and colorism in America, and black people are seen as violent because that's how we're typecasted and portrayed.
That's true.
like the
Even then with Power, right? Power is one of the most popular black shows right now, and what does the main character do?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't watch the show, so I
Either.
can tell
I watch
you.
TV.
He's basically was in the drug game and kills people a lot.
Is that 50 Cent's show?
That's 50 Cent show.
Okay.
Oh, 50 cents in it?
50 Cent was in it, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think he's the showrunner or something.
He,
like
he's
that.
one of the producers, and
Yeah,
he was an
yeah.
actor, and he also produced one of the the intro song for the show.
You can find me in the club. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So you were. Let's go back to Tinder though.
Yeah.
So Jackson, we wanted to ask you specifically about Tinder, man. What can you tell us about why girls always choose the highest tier males from an ecological standpoint?
So from
Well, hold on. Can I pause real quick?
Sure.
I want to interject before we get started on
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
I heard that there was there's this thing where they actually there's an algorithm that already offsets kind of who sees you.
Yeah.
So to kind of map you a little bit to your perceived how do you say it? League. Yeah. So the algorithm puts you in these tiers, so to say. Like so you only match with people that you're probably higher likely to match. So you really don't see the larger pool of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tinder already got
But
rid
take
of
into
that.
into consideration. I don't know
see.
if they got rid of
Yeah.
that or not. But
So, I mean, you're asking me something that people have been thinking about a lot, especially in mating systems, sexual selection, sort of evolutionary questions about why women want top tier men. Is like men want top tier women too.
yeah.
But I think that
But women more so,
okay, yeah. I mean,
or at least they are way more picky.
Well, I think because they're the selectors, right?
Well, yeah,
in a
and I think
sense.
there's been some arguments about that, and mind you, there's been a lot more that we've researched. We, as in not me, because I study invertebrates, but people who study sexual selection know that there's way more to this. But basically,
Jackson, get that mic close to you.
sorry, yeah, one of the arguments is that at least in humans and other mammals close related to humans, males can produce sperm pretty much throughout their entire lives, and men can theoretically get an infinite number of women pregnant. Whereas with women, they can only get pregnant by one man at a given point in time. From an evolutionary standpoint, your fitness is pretty much how well you can pass on your genes to the next generation. So if you are a male, you can try to go for a numbers game. You can just impregnate as many females as possible and say, well, I'm out of here. Eventually one of these guys is going to make it. But if you're a female, it takes a huge toll on your body. You have to go through pregnancy. You can't get pregnant during that. You have to be very careful. You have to change your diet. You're going through hormonal changes. And the childbirth process can be very taxing. I mean, if you look back in the 1800s, women were dying from childbirth
Yeah.
so many times.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense. I mean, it didn't make sense because you're losing so much blood and it's ripping through your your pelvis.
Yeah.
So basically, the idea is that you want to make sure that you choose high quality mates because that might ensure that the few offspring you can have a high chance of survival. So if I was trying to maximize my fitness, I'd try to choose one that had high resources and looked like he had good genes so that my offspring could probably make it because I can do 15 of these things before my equipment goes dry, or before it's too damaging. I mean, nowadays, most women only have 2 or 3 kids anyway.
At most.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, it is in America. It's like actually 1.9 or something like that on average. But basically, you want to choose a high quality mate so that you can you can increase the likelihood that your offspring is going to make it.
I see. Now, my question is, that all makes sense, but what actually drives that? Is it purely a hormonal thing, or is there something deeper in there that we can analyze?
I bet that society has a lot to do with it as well.
But it sounds more like it's, from what you're saying, it sounds like a biological thing, and it sounds like something that a lot of animal species do. So let's try to take society out of the equation.
Okay.
What do you think is the inherent driver? Is it strictly from hormones, or is it something else?
I don't think it's strictly hormones. I don't actually know.
So there's no good.
Are.
Is there? Do you know if there's any hypothesis on why?
Yeah, there's tons of hypotheses why. Rearing environment. if you are in a certain environment where you're watching certain things happen, the norm of that society could affect how you actually see things. So,
Like what things are of sexual value, right?
yeah, what things are of value.
But this sounds all sociological.
But what I'm telling you is that rearing environment can influence someone's biology and how they think. Like the psychology that has to do with your brain, the psychiatry that is involved with that sort of stuff. Is that still not part of biology?
I guess so.
So we're talking about those sorts of things. I feel as though there probably is going to be an innate drive deep down inside to desire something over another. But I think that a lot of what we see with people's preferences is mostly given to us by society. For example, you always hear about...
Oh, sure. The preferences themselves make
Yes.
sense.
So, for example, you hear about women like guys who have high status. You hear that spoken about a lot of times. Now, how do you determine someone has high status?
Right. It's
Yeah.
whatever the society deems high status.
Yes, whatever society deems high status. And if that makes it so that your happy hormones go off when you see someone who fits those criteria, whether that's money, whether that's being a leader in the environment, where that means they can beat up more people than others, even though back in the day, human beings probably didn't have currency for a very long time, they probably still made choices to choose partners based off of some sort of metric of status, whether you can get the most protection, whether you can build the most, maybe you have the most territory. I don't know.
I would imagine you can kind of make a generalized, what could you say, metric for status. And I think maybe you could call it survivability, because let's say back in the days when we didn't have currency or any like infrastructure, industry or agriculture or anything,
Like 180,000 years ago, yeah.
Huh?
Like 180,000, maybe like 10,000 years ago they had
Sure. And then it would be the person who is the strongest physically, who could be the best hunter or something.
Maybe.
But nowadays it would be you have better survivability if you have money, because you can buy, whatever you want, whatever you need to survive.
Yeah. Well, in America, money pretty much money is power. And if you look at most societies in the world, you find that polygyny, or having multiple wives, is much more common than polyandry, where you have multiple male partners. So I do think that there is some way to say, okay, what is status? It definitely depends on what society values. In America, it's money. In some other places, it might be the fact that you're a leader in your community. Like you hear about pastors always divorcing their wives and getting with the people who are in their audience.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon.
They did it for Jesus.
You hear about them going to the marriage counseling, and mind you, they're unlicensed marriage counselors most of the time. And they end up making someone get a divorce, and next thing you know, they're married them 2 weeks later. But
Oh, that's shady.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Watch
it depends.
that water.
Yeah, sorry. It depends on what society says.
Yeah, like that's because you were saying like you wanted to make a metric for like survivability,
But even then,
but that's filtered in the lens of, like Jackson is saying, it's filtered into the lens of through society and time and stuff like that. So that's obviously the dynamic variable. But you're saying like the fundamental core driver is survivability.
Yeah.
Survivability.
I'm trying to find a general way to put it so that you can.
But it's still at the end of the day interpreted through the culture's value systems and whatnot, right?
Sure.
But the thing is, when you think about survivability, fitness does not have to do with. There's a common misconception to think that fitness is very tied to like how long you live. Obviously, the longer you live, the more you can reproduce.
Yeah.
There should be some correlation, right?
There should be some correlation, but at the same time, you could live 98 years
Oh, but you ain't
and
fucking at
not
98.
have. But if you have no offspring, you essentially have zero fitness. If you have zero offspring and you lived 180 years, it doesn't matter. You have less fitness than a kid who burned out at 16 and died in a car crash, but had 8 children from 5 different women.
Yeah, imagining the function. And how would the function look? So when you're a kid, you don't get laid at all. So it's kind of like, it's going to be like some flat line, and it's going to be like a Dirac delta when you get older. And then
ideally it's
it's going to be like
it's a normal curve, dude. It's just, It's got
normal
It's
distribution?
probably a normal distribution
Of what?
like of your fitness. Most if you look at the trajectory of a human life or most species, I imagine it's like a normal distribution.
A normal distribution.
Yeah, I imagine it's a normal distribution. Where
think
it's
you're
like
probably
the frequency is higher at some age, and you peak, and then
Yeah.
you just trail off.
Yeah, let's go
Yeah.
with that.
And the thing is, you also have to remember that in humans and in tons of other animals, there is a risk. There's a huge risk to having a ton of offspring sometimes. Sometimes if you have too many offspring as a human being, you can't take care of them, not even yourself.
Yeah, child support, dude.
Child support is a big thing. And the thing is, if you look at more impoverished and poor countries with low education, you see much more childbirth there.
Yeah.
So,
Because they're workers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right?
well, I mean, I think it makes complete sense. If you
Explain to me. I don't see it.
because if I was in the middle of some South American jungle back in 1800 BC, we might have not have had the level of healthcare that we currently have, and so the likelihood of a child dying because early
Childhood
life
illness.
stages has a very high mortality.
I see.
You can't defend yourself. You're very susceptible because you have pretty much no immune system.
I would have been dead. Would you have been dead?
I would have
most
been
of us
dead.
probably
My
would've been dead.
eyesight
Yeah.
sucks.
Most of
I had I had every allergy in the book.
Most of us probably
And
would have been
asthma.
dead.
Yeah.
And so, child death was really high. I mean, if you look at tons of places in Africa to this day, it's still very high. But and then if you look at more developed countries, it's very low because if you have to work, if you actually work more, because you can actually find more not uniform. What am I trying to say? Basically, find consistent work where you
Right,
know there's
right.
going to be consistent hours and stuff that are required.
Right.
Things. You say that you want to put more resources into your offspring instead of just trying to have as many as possible. I don't know.
So it's like quality versus quantity.
Because
right?
if I was out there, I'm like, man, I don't know. I know that 70% of all children are going to die in this place. I want to have at least 10 so I can have
Right.
at least 3 that make it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at insects, when you look at tons of marine invertebrates where they have a lot of mortality and they don't take care of their offspring, or they can't take care of their offspring, you see a lot more offspring being born. They lay thousands, if not in some animals, millions of eggs.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes
And
sense.
whereas if you look at mammals, where they actually have milk and they take care of their offspring, they don't lay eggs. They will sit there and take care of them. They'll teach them. They'll feed them. It's birds as well. You see far fewer offspring being born.
So you think love? Do you think that love connection between offspring and like in mammals, right? You think that's definitely an evolutionary thing, right?
There's no way it can't be.
Like a
Love
mechanism.
connection?
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
connection a connection between your between a parent and its offspring.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you ask again?
No, like it definitely had to be an evolutionary thing. Like it came out of like
Yeah,
it's
because if
obviously more favorable, right? Like
Right, because if they didn't love the child, then it's
Yeah.
either going to die or it's going to get lucky by surviving.
no, but I'm
Yeah.
saying there are species like that, like Jackson was saying, it was like
yeah.
It's numbers game.
I don't know if I want to use the term love because I feel as though love in general has a very vague and because it's so very vague, bad definition.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So
Actually, in Latin, there's like 5 different versions of love. The word love.
Yeah, and so when we say love, we're talking about familial love, or we talk about
Right.
intimate love, or we talk
Right.
about love for one's nation,
Yeah.
love for oneself,
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of things. Like you like I mean, yeah, you won't look at yourself and get your heart beating when you see yourself in the mirror, you know.
yeah.
And also,
I do.
I mean, in a way, I guess you could look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Please, I like you because you take care of me." But you know,
yeah.
still, I don't know if I want to say it's love. You know, like if a lion takes care of its cub, or a bear sees its cub in danger and attacks a person attacking its cub.
Well, bears eat their own cubs. Some of them.
A lot of males will kill cubs from other males.
Well, even the females will eat their cubs sometimes.
I
think if they can't feed them or something.
I don't doubt it.
At least that's what I learned on Joe Rogan podcast.
Well, it makes sense. A lot of animals will do that. They'll eat the offspring, and maybe it's not. Maybe they realize like they don't have enough resources right now.
Yeah,
they need
yeah.
food or something. And when producing another individual, it's very taxing, very
Yeah.
energetic,
Yeah.
costly. So you just got to think about it, because if you look at most mammals, even humans included, we're very inefficient as biological machines. Most of our energy is lost at heat, and now trying to consolidate that into tissue is difficult. And now imagine trying to do that while at the same time contributing to the growth of another human being in general.
Right.
There's a reason why we don't pop out human beings that are fully grown.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Interesting. So how do you beat Tinder?
What do you mean? How do you win?
How do you win the game?
How do you win the game?
What do you mean by win?
How do you win
Get a lot of matches.
How do you get the matches?
How do you up your percentage?
Pay.
Asking
pay
for
Tinder
a friend.
first.
Oh, pay Tinder?
Pay Tinder first.
Oh, because then they give you a better
So
algorithm.
you can have your super likes, better algorithm, get your special things. You could.
I got to ask you, do you ever super like anyone?
I don't have. Man, I got off those apps.
Well, when you did it, did you super like?
No, I didn't want to give them the satisfaction.
Yeah, I think it's the dumbest idea ever.
And
What? I did. I used super likes.
Is that?
Like they had them back in the day. Like I think
It's been around for a while.
it's been around for a while.
Yeah, super
because-
like gives makes them too cocky.
Definitely super liked, but it didn't work.
Yeah,
it's
I
a bad-
got
it's a
super,
bad call.
I got super liked one time, and she let me know it was an accident.
I think it always should be an accident.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never did it because I'm like, if I have to go as far as saying, hey, I super like you, you're probably getting tons of these things.
Yeah.
And, I get one a day, and it's
Or
probably.
puts them on a pedestal.
Well, the thing is, like, I think that it's all right to praise somebody for how they look or what they are, right? But what I don't like about the super likes is that I know it's essentially meaningless. Because I mean, with a lot of women, they have a lot of likes on Tinder. I mean, if I took my sister's profile pictures and I swiped right on everything, I probably matched like 80% of them. There's some guys who just go there and just swipe right on everything.
Yeah.
Whereas most women tend to be a lot more choosy about who they decide to swipe on, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, if I can't match with this woman with a regular like, then a super like isn't going to make her say, oh, well, he super likes me. That actually is going to make me give him a chance.
True.
I think because I'm thinking like a guy probably.
Yeah.
Because it's like low numbers. It's like,
No.
if a chick super likes me, that's like one in like,
A billion.
yeah.
Dude,
That's what I'm
I promise you. If you make a fake profile of like your sister or a female friend of yours.
Yeah.
Or use the
You're
face
gonna
app and do the gender swap.
Right.
Yeah, that works too.
And then become depressed.
Yeah, and then you'll be quickly surprised how thirsty and how direct dudes can be. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. I remember one of my friends. He was telling me how he felt lonely, he felt bad, he felt no one could like him or whatever. Right? I was like, "You're saying nobody?" He said, "Yeah, nobody." I was like, "You're wrong. Go download Grindr now." And sure enough, he did it. And within 12 minutes, he had about 20 likes and like
Jesus
7
Christ.
messages. I was like,
That's awesome.
I told him, I'm like, dude, if you
Gay
ever,
dudes are
I'm like,
reckless,
it's,
bro.
it's because I'm telling you,
Dating
like the
pool's guys,
dynamics,
man.
the dynamics for this is different. But when it's sometimes if you are desired by men, then things are a lot different. It's just a different world, and I just accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fucking wolves.
Well, not even that. It's like I don't know. Dudes get stupid. Like they're like, hey. They like, the shotgun method. Some guys say, oh, even if I do everything properly, I might not get a match. So I'm just gonna shotgun method everyone I see. It's for a lot of guys. They say, well, I'm not quite picky in the current level of horniness I'm on. So
Let's do this.
yeah. And then some guys say, oh man, like me. I was like, okay, well, this is humbling. I know, now I know where I have a better idea where I stand in the world.
Well, also the thing that about Tinder is it's very. I feel like the matches that you get are not really representative of what you can get in real life.
No, not at all.
Because
Not at all.
it's like disproportionately low compared to real life, depending on what you look like.
Yeah.
Because if you're very much a cookie cutter type person and you have a good traditional level of attractiveness, then I think your numbers will be inflated.
But location is also important too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true
But
as well.
Is it location or vocation?
Location.
Location.
Vocation too. I mean, but like it's because I've had going to different cities and trying this shit. Like I saw such a huge disparity of like
True.
like if like for I think you were the one who told me, you're like, dude, here the dating pool here is very slim.
Well, yeah, for me, Like, so I'm from Southern California, and coming out here, where the majority of the women are on Tinder that I've seen are white sorority girls around here. And mind you, I might just need to increase the age or something. Or like white sorority girls out here and everything. And I had to like 20 to like 35 or something.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've had 0 matches with white women since I moved out here. But in California, it was different. I could get matches. And it didn't seem like obviously I matched more with black females than anything else, but everything else seemed to be kind of uniform, you know?
Right, right.
Dude, I was driving up here to once just earlier, and I just saw these sorority girls walking, and it was like being in the Matrix. You know the glitch in the scene when the cat walks twice? I swore I passed like 3 intersections and I thought I saw the same group of girls walking.
It is cookie cutter.
They all wear the same uniform.
It's kind of weird.
They try to go for the same look. I mean,
they do. It's
but
like
they also look for this. They also are looking for a type of guy, right? Because I think you need to fit that mold.
They need to fit that mold, and I mean that's why I really don't like fraternity. I'll just get to that.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I don't like fraternities, or I don't like Greek life in general. It doesn't matter where it's at. It doesn't matter if it's white, black, sorority, fraternity. Heck, I was part of the Tri Beta Biological Society, and I didn't like that. And that's not.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, Society of Physics students, Sigma Pi Sigma was cool.
Yeah, I imagine it is, but like maybe it's just because my chapter didn't do anything. But I still paid to get in. So I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm like, it's like you guys just want to have your
breeds
little
people
gang.
that all are the same.
And you're supposed to be You're supposed to be the certain type of person, right? Like for example, I was at they don't really have HBCUs or in California. And I mean, they had Cap at Christmas at USC every now and then. I think and like my friend's brother's in Alpha, but he went to Channel Islands or East Bay or something in the Bay Area. But it doesn't have nearly as much of a presence as it does here in the South. And I didn't know that until I moved out here. And when I went to get my haircut, someone was telling me how there was a stereotype for AKAs versus deltas.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know what that. First of all, I don't know.
It's black fraternities and sorority. Well, that's sororities.
Sororities, and basically, as far as I can tell, AKAs have a stereotype of being like more light skinned, longer,
girly girls.
Yeah, girly girls, kind of weaker. Then I guess like deltas were stereotyped as like the darker women who had much more natural hair, who might have been a little more ratchet and a lot stronger and stuff. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean. And that's been ingrained in some of people. Like my barber said that it only dissolved maybe back in 2012 where he was at it. And that's FAMU been around for how long? So that means that they're going over 100 years of having this dynamic or whenever Founders Day was for them, like 1902 or whatever.
Yeah, that shit was still prevalent even when I was in school. Like you could tell who was in what fraternity just by looking at them.
And I can't go, if I do certain hand signs, right? Like this or something. Is this Kappa or something? I don't know.
But I thought that was a white nationalism.
But basically, like in California, at least my friend group and a lot of people in California that I know kind of think it's a joke because we're like, you have a boys club, and honestly, fraternities, there's no point when there's gangs there. You don't have to pay to join a gang. If you join for brotherhood,
you pay with your life.
If you join for brotherhood or solidarity, you can find that in a gang, and I think that's one of the reasons why there's not as big of a black frat presence out in California personally. But also,
the people going to college aren't gangsters.
Of course, no. But yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, they're not gangsters. But I did know a lot of women whose boyfriends were still like doing shit back
in college.
Yeah, dude. Like, dude, like one of my freshman year.
How you gonna be a thug in college?
No.
Hey, dog, I'm gonna go study real quick.
No, I'm saying that their girlfriends were in college, but their boyfriend was still back thugging out.
Oh.
And then a lot of my friends still like kind of grew up around that. Like one of my best friends, pretty much everyone around him was a Crip. And so he knew about this sort of stuff. Like I remember I said I was around one of his friends and I said something. And then the guy he told me like, watch my words, even though that other guy wasn't even in a gang. He's just been so used to that, environment. When my friends, whenever he texts, he never ends anything with a CK. He always like, if he says fuck, it's FUCC. Because that's an insult to Crips if you put CK.
Wait, why K?
Killer. After C. Crip killer.
Oh,
So,
God, they got too much time.
yeah. So the thing is, like, you learn about
Find something
this.
better to do.
Exactly. And so the thing is, like, you meet people who are in college and who are educated, who still kind of had that culture and behavior about them. And I think that that's very interesting. But I knew people who were like who came from gangs who went in there, and I knew people who like were still trying to steal and stuff.
Yeah. Can you imagine like writing a thug guy like going up to like the professional level?
But
And
at the
he
same time-
doesn't
PhD.
yeah, he's a PhD, but he doesn't end words in CK. He's like,
Oh no, he's get out of it. It's usually like they
I'm playing
used-
around with you.
they
He's writing
used to be
papers and
this.
shit.
But here's the thing. But I wanted to make a parallel for it. So out here in the South, right, where they actually have like parades and huge things. Like people are talking about fraternities, Greek life when they're in high school, middle school, even. Like if you have a family member,
Yeah.
you pretty much, if you're a male and you have a you have your father was in something, you're expected almost to do it, right?
yeah, you're primed
Like
for this.
To do frat?
to go
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the same one at least.
Oh, yeah, that's how
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had. My dad's in the fraternity.
Which one?
and Kappa.
Oh god.
I'm like, these motherfuckers are so soft. I can't join this shit.
well,
I couldn't do it, bro.
yeah, my grandfather.
that's funny.
Apparently, I found out my grandfather was ashamed. My grandparents were ashamed that they actually joined Greeks, and they never told any of the grandchildren until recently.
They were ashamed.
That's how my great grandfather was.
Yes,
he used to be a Q dog.
Ashamed? Where does the shame come from?
Because it's like you're kind of like a kid who, it's like their wild side. My great grandfather is like this super straight edge, just like professional guy.
Okay.
Right. He's an engineer who became a doctor.
Okay.
And he has an Omega tattooed on his
oh
Did
shit!
you have the tattoo or the brand?
the brand.
Oh shit! Okay,
Like
that's how you know you're a
if
wild boy,
anyone
man.
takes a hot iron to my
Yeah.
skin,
Yeah.
I'm fading them. Like I don't care. Like they said, oh, you want to be part of this thing, you got to get branded like a fucking slave or a piece of, or cattle. Like this is exactly what we try not to do.
And the thing is, black people a lot of times keloid too. So it's,
yeah, we
it's out
keloid
of
easily. Yeah, we
I keloid. So I know that, and I'm pretty sure my family, most of them probably does, except for my mom.
the fuck is keloid?
It's so a keloid is like when you
like a
burn
scar
yourself, the scar raises.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
really
Yeah, yeah,
noticeable.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
black people tend to be very smooth, shiny skin as well. So
Yeah, my great grandfather had that, and he was so embarrassed by it.
yeah, my grandmother died without even telling us she was AKA.
Damn.
I just found out during my cousin's wedding because my cousin's now wife was an AKA, and like they stroll. We already knew not to get in the way. I found out that you're not supposed to get in the way, and that they'll attack you if you're in their way before.
Yeah.
But basically, his wife had this AKA ritual thing that was like mad strange to me. They got in a circle with the wife in the middle, and they started like singing the AKA song or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like young members who were her friends and older members. I was just like, this is like a cult, man.
They start putting on hoods.
I feel uncomfortable.
yeah,
She was in the middle, like they're like channeling some spirit into her
Holy
of
shit.
the great AKA demon or something.
Yeah.
And the black fraternities do the stepping.
I hate that shit. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like the thing is, like I was at
It's cool when people are good at it, but I'm like, I wouldn't want to like be forced to do it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to be
15.
forced to bear
Yeah.
witness to it. I was at some party at near USC, and apparently it was a frat party, and I was there pretty much alone. I came there with some people, but I forgot how I got separated from them. But they started like everyone started moving out of the way, and I'm standing here, and then like they start strolling. They're like pushing people out of the way.
Yeah.
Who are already standing there for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, I understand if it's one thing if they like get in your way on purpose, but if you can't snake around them, like, why are they automatically supposed to like be beneath you and move out of the way as if you're?
Well, they're a
royalty?
group. They're
What?
a united group, so they can do that kind of shit. They can stomp you out if you try to say
They
otherwise.
can, but you're shoving women out of the way who
They
are
don't give a
standing
fuck.
there in hills because you decided that you wanted to go and do your conga line at this moment.
They think they're badass, I guess.
But at the same time, like I heard they were like trademarking moves. So someone started getting on Chris Brown for doing some sort of dance. I'm just like, I don't even know what the shit is, man.
Well, here's the thing. Dabbing, you know how we do dabbing all the time now? My fucking parents and anybody who has relatives in the black fraternities have been dabbing since like the 70s.
Yeah, dude.
That shit is old as hell.
Dude, I
I'm
can
like,
find
why
you-
are we doing that now?
I can find you old Speed Racer drawings of people dabbing.
Yeah.
Because Power Rangers have been dabbing since
Yeah,
in
yeah.
every single season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude.
I
When
know
the last
that,
time they
100%.
transform, they go like this.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh shit.
Yeah. That's fucking the Ginyu Force shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they call that dabbing recently, but that pose where you put your arm like that's ancient, man.
Yeah.
Like ninja pose.
But black fraternities definitely invented that. I think.
Probably, man.
I'm going Hotep mode, okay?
Yeah.
Hostile hoteps, man. No, honestly, I think though it's easy enough that you could do tons of places. And the thing is, if I dab and a bunch of people from a frat try to find me, I'm just gonna have to fight back. Like I'm not gonna stop doing it because you guys in your little boys club get upset that I didn't get paddled or branded enough to get it. Or no, what did they have to do too? I think
Yeah, and that paddling shit, I gotta talk about that.
No.
Is that not the gayest
My
thing?
main thing, man.
There's some homoerotic stuff with frats that I
No,
can't get
definitely
behind.
is.
were you the one who was telling me about the egg thing?
Egg?
Where they actually had to swap like egg yolk by mouth with each
Oh,
other?
No.
God.
See, this is why
I can't do it, man. I can't do that, dude.
I get you trying to do brotherhood, but this is beyond
Why do, I have to
brotherhood.
suffer? Why do I have to suffer and be very uncomfortable to be with you?
Yeah.
I think the idea is that you instill trauma or you do something that you can all you can't tell anybody that you guys did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it'll embarrass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
which makes it even more
Remember, bro, you can't tell anyone.
Yeah. So there are very few things. There are
We're
very
taking
few
this to the
things.
grave.
No, for real. I think that's why there's a level of shame there, where it's like I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about my
I think
days.
my-
Well, this is my conspiracy. I thought
Yeah.
that they did this with frats originally so that you can have, when people get in high positions of power,
Yeah.
you can have them. You
Oh,
basically can
leverage.
you have leverage over them now because then they have dirt on you and they could say, "Oh,
'Cause you're like, we
you
went
don't
through the
want to
same
fund,
ritual."
yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
fund my political campaign. Well, I'll just tell about how we swapped eggs together."
That's
Yeah,
very
so
true.
I think it's
man.
like an old shit that gives you leverage because I'm like, what is the purpose behind this?
Yeah, that's very
But
true.
the thing is, like, I think that there is something to be said about that trauma thing, because when people go to war and stuff, usually
Yeah,
they come
yeah.
back and they're really good friends with who they're with. I think suffering through things together
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of breeds camaraderie. I mean, when you think about when human society was probably trying to form,
Yeah.
people probably said, "Hey, man, that's a big ass line right there." But I don't know if we can fight all four of us. One of us, no way we can fight them. Maybe all four of us.
Right.
And so I think that common fears and common enemies, obviously, makes it easy for people to join groups with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly, the reason why one of my best friends and I became friends is because our roommate was driving us to go get some groceries, and he was looking at his phone while driving and trying to show off his dad's BMW.
Oh,
And he almost killed us.
Jesus.
He would try to
Damn.
he would go up and accelerate onto the ramp,
Oh, my
at 70 miles
God.
an hour. And
I'd be like, let me out this fucking car,
Yeah.
man.
well, that's what we like. We looked at each other in the back seat, like, dude, like, and I was trying to tell him, hey, man, don't you want to let her, like the girl who was in the car, his girlfriend. I'm like, hey, why don't she just choose the music and why don't you just tell her what song
yeah.
you want to do?
Or I would have called an Uber.
Yeah,
That was
like, let me out this
Uber
fucking
that was
car,
before
man.
Uber was like big and stuff.
Oh,
This is like 2011, 2012, 2011. Yeah.
yeah. Some people's driving, man.
That's how you end up like Kevin Hart, dude. Did you hear about what happened
Oh
to him?
yeah, he
Pretty sure that's what happened to him and his friends and shit.
yeah, severe spinal injuries, right?
Something like that.
Okay. But I want to kind of get back. I want to backtrack.
Yeah.
Something. So, you seem to be opinionated on Tinder about these dating apps in general.
Me?
Yes. You seem to have
Yeah, I have an
some
opinion.
some questions.
Not
about
super
it.
opinion though.
Okay, because you were asking me about, why do women like want the highest tier men
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I was curious about, with what I've given you or what I've spoken to you about, like, does that change anything you think about, like, Tinder, or is it just like, okay, there it is?
No, it's pretty much the same.
The
That's what I
same
was thinking.
perception I've had.
It's a new like false framework of thinking that you're going to be able to match with people.
Yeah.
It gives you the illusion that you have more options, but actually it limits you even more, I think.
I think that the paradox of choice does a lot for people.
Yeah, I think that's true,
Because
true as well.
the paradox of choice means that, the more choices you have, the harder it is to make a choice. You go into Walmart and there are 3 video games there that you can purchase, all 3 different genres. It's easy to make a choice on which one you want.
Yeah.
You go in there and there's like 8 different games for every genre. It gets very difficult. to determine if you made the right one. You got to go.
Right.
You got to go and do your research. You got to go look at reviews. You got to say, okay, which reviewers do I trust? You have to go and do tons of different things until you think that you actually made a right choice, and that could actually limit your ability to make a choice in general. And in lots of cases, if you don't make a choice quickly enough, you could just lose the ability to make any choice at all. So I think that Tinder kind of breeds that. Tinder and all these other dating apps breed that, because you always think to yourself, why would I make an attempt or try with this human being when I can always find something better and chase the perfect one that you can't ever actually acquire? And to go further to what you said about in real life, I think in real life that kind of dissolves, because if you go into a club, there's like 80 men, 80 women inside there, right? There's not like 1,000. And I've gotten the numbers of women who I knew would never, ever, 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 ever swipe on me.
Oh yeah.
If I was on Tinder and stuff, and because you can't get body language. There's not a group of you people.
But Tinder,
no
you don't even get like
personality.
at least for me, Tinder. There's like girls who I'm like, I wouldn't even approach her in real life. That won't even swipe on me.
Yeah, exactly. There's some women. There's some people on there who say I wouldn't even give you a chance in real life, but they wouldn't swipe on you anyway because it's Tinder. And so, and everyone feels as though they can find the person for them. And I really think that, without showing like body language, group dynamics means a lot when it comes to attraction. If you look good, but you're just sitting there in the corner like the entire time, not talking with anyone else in your group.
We could be the deep brooding mysterious guy.
Yeah, but if you look like
sad. Yeah.
Oh, I see puppy dog eyes and
sad puppy, scared. I want to go back to mommy's basement. Look in your eyes the entire time.
That's an oddly specific look.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna say any names, but I'm just gonna say I think it's safe to say. But there's someone in my department. I'm like, man, this dude. I hate to use punch words, but I use the word. I knew about Chad and the whole Chad meme before he blew up, and so like. Before they even had the pictures of what a Chad was and Giga Chad and all that stuff.
Chad versus
a virgin, whatever.
Yeah.
Before that, Chad was still kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I actually knew a guy.
Yeah, it's like a British fucking slang word, right? It's like
chav. That's
chav.
CHAV.
Okay,
yeah.
Chad is like
okay.
Like
I'm mixing
trailer
things
trash or like trash British person.
Right.
So a Chad, you could. God, what am I even talking about? Why did I even bring up Chad? So I knew about that.
It's someone in your apartment.
Yeah, so
like,
someone in my
that
department
reminded
pretty
me.
much has like the jaw. That dude has like the brow ridge where it's like the positive, the negative canthal tilt or whatever that was supposed to be. All this lookism shit that people talk about. Say, oh, this is why you don't get any girls, right?
Yeah.
You're
got
not
the Chad
properly.
look, huh?
He has all that, but that dude is so awkward and he's like quiet and stuff. But like when you see his profile picture, if he got like a haircut or something, you'd be like chiseled.
Yeah.
He's a Giga Chad, huh?
not Giga. He's
Okay.
he has very strong Chad genetics, but it's not his personality,
Yeah.
It's not him.
He's got like a nerdy persona.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say this because I don't want to give anything away, but basically, he's not a Chad.
Yeah.
Personality wise,
I feel like that's kind of the problem for me, at least at the time when I was on Tinder. It was very like, I'm kind of a nerdy guy. I'm very. It's hard for me to really strip myself down to a level where it's very basic.
Yeah.
It is.
So I'm like,
Well, you also don't want to either, right? Because then it's not.
Because you kind of peel back a little bit. So I mean, you kind of peel off a little bit of your personality there. And I would get dates, but I'd be too fucking weird for people that were there. Like I would match with chicks, and it'd be
Because you'd be awkward the first time.
well, because like my network of things that I know is very specific to like. I'm around a lot of scientists, and you pick up on you don't realize this, but you pick up on the mannerisms and weird shit.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and you just talking to somebody like I hate to say it this way, but a civilian, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those normies.
You
Can't possibly understand.
They can't. It's kind of hard for them to really realize like where you're at. Like
You're in an all male field with a bunch of dudes who probably have never even seen a vagina in real life.
Aren't you in that same field?
Or just don't interact with the opposite sex a lot, and like you're always in your head, and like it's hard to talk to people. And I'm sure this happens for females too, because like there are a lot of females in the program that I know of that kind of fall in the same loop, like where you just kind of caught in this like nerdy box or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
and I think too that this happens in a lot of aspects of our lives. Like we are affected by a group, and like the reason why I didn't want to separate the group dynamics from biology is because literally they found biological effects of groups on people, like your hormones changes. They actually found that I think guys produce faster swimming or more sperm per volume of semen when they actually see other guys around a group of females they want or something in humans. So it does. The group you're around will affect.
Right, they're inextricably linked.
They are linked, like because human beings are group animals. If we did not have group dynamics, human beings would not survive.
Right.
You see tigers. There's nothing that's gonna fuck with the tiger on land, so it doesn't really need a group.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Why do girls' periods link up?
That's
I
a
don't
myth,
know.
bro. I think that's a myth.
I think
Is it really?
We can ask a girl. We have a girl.
Because literally, I know people who have like these apps where they know when their period's gonna show up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if their period.
Do you even know if it's true or no?
I have a hunch.
I know that's not your area, but
I have a hunch that it's false, but I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
deny.
I mean, I grew up in a house full of women, and I can sort of. There might be days where something is linked up, but I think maybe it's more linked to like, okay, because it's called the moon cycle. I think it might.
Yeah.
I think there might be more of a case where it's like where it follows a lunar calendar thing instead of like you link up with.
But why would it even follow that?
I don't know, man. Women have a specific tie to nature, dude. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, we're not. I don't know. We're not reproductive biologists. And even then, I think that a lot of guys are just ignorant on that to begin with. Like, you ask me, why did it always happen? My mother, my sister, I live with them, but I didn't know when my mom was on her period. I didn't want to know. I didn't know my sister was on her period. I didn't want to know, and when I did know, it seemed as though they were not at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen them overlap. I don't know, dude.
Okay.
Why does it last like 8 days? I don't know.
You know what? We need to make friends with like sorority girls or something and ask them, because then they would know.
Oh,
They live
God.
together. Oh, God.
Yeah, because they all live together in
Well, I
a
mean,
house.
they're all trying to be as like genetically similar or like phenotypically
Right, they're like
similar.
artificially making their periods the same,
Like
getting
they're
surgery.
artificially injecting hormones, so
They
they
take
initiate.
hormones, yeah.
They're like, we are now one.
so they sync up.
Yeah, they think they have to stave their period off and activate it when it's time.
Because I think that's the only way to really match up. You'd have to take like hormones to like match up with people.
I just imagine like sorority girls are actually like this crime fighting force, and they do this for a specific reason, like period force activate.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend a long time ago. She was telling me that men are actually on their periods all the time.
I've heard that as well.
Men are on their periods all the time.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
They're saying that they have like, I think they said that men always have a period, but it like fluctuates on a daily cycle as opposed to a monthly cycle.
Yeah.
What does that even mean, though?
You have different levels of hormones at different times of the day.
Yeah. So your testosterone peaks at a certain time, and like you know, you
That sounds like
fluctuate.
women just trying to say that they're not crazy.
Well, dude, I mean, people have been studying a lot of this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, at first when I heard that, I was like, yeah, because you had like emotionally dysfunctional relationship previously, but then I started thinking about it, I was like, yeah, we're constantly producing sperm all the time. That requires a certain level of hormones. Like you literally need to have like a certain fat level, a certain amount of hormone concentrated in order to produce it. If you have too much estrogen, I think you stop producing it, and that we do know it's in our bodies. So
Yeah.
I really don't. This is like literally my worst part. I don't know anything about.
Sorry, Jackson. I know we're like,
but we can
we're
dispel-
going in an area that's not his field. So
But I think we're kind of using logic.
Yeah.
Things that we know to try to get at.
And the thing is, like, don't be afraid to be wrong, because you can always qualify your statements with, I'm just
not an expert.
I'm just what can you say? Like, I'm not sure. That's what I say. Like, I'm not sure, but I think.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
I'm not sure at all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but I've heard it been said, and like, I mean, we know for a fact, right? Like, men and women both produce testosterone and estrogen.
Yeah.
And whatever at certain levels, right? But,
Right.
But yeah, I think what she was trying to say was that like, we like to think that men are more stable. But she
Exactly. That's what I say. It sounds like women trying to pass the
but
buck and say they're not crazy.
she was saying no, because men can be more emotional sometimes because they can be like, those dudes that are like super aggressive, right?
Yeah.
This sounds like fake female news.
No. But I'm like, I guess that's kind of right. Like, because there are those dudes, even guys look at some of those guys that are very emotional and like very low threshold for anger.
Yeah.
Oh, like they just snap on the
Yeah.
dime.
We look at that and we're like, whoa, like that's too much,
And it is, I mean, we know that males are just more violent than females.
Oh,
anyway.
yeah. Statistically, yeah.
Statistically. And the thing is, like, but if you look at it like a dog that's in heat, a female dog that's in heat can be a very aggressive animal.
Yeah,
But,
my cat, I think my cat gets like that too. She's like, whoa. yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they do start making weird ass noises.
It's
Huh?
fucking
but,
weird,
like,
man.
they also get way more belligerent. And so
So that's why men are.
I think it has to do with like maybe the fluctuation in the
Interesting.
hormones or something. But
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
yes, males go through that all the time. It could make sense.
Yeah.
And men are more likely to be reckless, make stupid decisions, violence. They kill people more often.
Men are on their periods all the time, bro.
Confirmed.
Confirmed, yeah. Nah, but
You heard it here first, folks.
Nah,
Rigorous science channel.
yeah. No, dude, I actually saw some really cool shit. Because one time we were talking about like, I don't know if it was you and me, but I was like, did anybody ever witness, like the origin of a new species or seeing a new species develop? Because I saw something about some researchers went to like an island in the Galapagos and they saw
The bird species?
yeah. Did you hear about this?
A long time ago though, where the birds have different beaks now.
Yeah, but then one bird from like a island adjacent made his way over from a storm or something, and then
It wasn't real.
no, it wasn't originally from there, but they saw that bird through the span of 40 years. They call it rapid evolution or something, where they see this species come like just out of nowhere.
So you're
kinda.
saying
wow.
that you're saying that they actually notice when a species has arisen.
Because a lot of people question evolution, right? And this is one of those clear examples of like, oh, this is evolution in action. Like, we see
Right.
the species from outside of the island, this closed
Damn, how
environment.
rapid. How does is this a real thing, Jackson? Rapid evolution?
Well, evolution can progress at several different rates, and some species have certain traits that can evolve more rapidly than others, which is actually what I'm doing.
But
for my
within time
dissertation.
scales of a normal human lifetime?
Definitely, yeah. Look at
Wow.
cichlids in Africa. Cichlids in Africa, we see that, for example, there's this one species of cichlid that actually eats the scales off of fish.
What is a cichlid, by
A
the way?
cichlid's a fish.
Okay.
Or it's like, cichlid's a fish, and it lives in a bunch of places, and it's a very, very quickly evolving animal for some reason. I don't know why, but it is. But basically what happens is that there's this one that specializes in eating the scales off of fish. And because it eats the scale off of fish, it tries to swim next to the fish so it can make sure that it's like in a good position. These cichlids have evolved so that their mouths go like this.
Get that mic close to your
Sorry,
face.
their mouths go like this and go to one
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
So that they can swim parallel to the fish while still eating the
Oh,
scales
shit.
off of it. The fish
Okay.
obviously start defending that side of their body more often than the other side, and the fish that have their mouths on this direction couldn't really eat as much, and their fitness dropped as a result. The same species start evolving to have their mouth go to the other side rapidly in order to take advantage of the changed behaviors in the fish that had scales they were eating.
Right.
And so there are tons of examples. I mean, people can evolve bacteria very quickly. Flies, you can evolve fly wings very quickly. I remember there was a study I read in Advanced Evolution about them running some bacteria cultures for 60,000 generations.
Wow.
Damn.
There hasn't been 60,000 generations of humans.
Damn.
If we look at the average human generation, let's say the average human generation is 25 years, right? 25 years. And we say that human beings have been around for 200,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
That means that human beings have had less than 10,000
Generations.
10,000 generations
Yeah.
since human beings were recognized as a species, Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
And so now we ran this thing for over 6 times as long as human beings.
That's because they have shorter lifespans.
Yeah,
The flies,
and they
yeah.
reproduce much more quickly. It was a bacteria.
Oh, bacteria, my bad.
Yeah, and so they noticed tons
But is
of these
that even long of a generation for a bacteria?
60,000 generations?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely, because
So the number of generation is. Let me think of how to say this. The number is high, like it's significant no matter what. If it's a high number, as in you're gonna see some kind of significant evolution as long as the number of generations is high enough across all species.
I wouldn't say that, not necessarily.
Okay.
So you hear about people talking about sharks and crocodilians are living fossils, coelacanths are living fossils, because they haven't changed in a very long time. We find fossil evidence of them 20 million years ago, and morphologically, it's very similar to the specimens we have currently. Just because they've had a very long time doesn't mean they're going to evolve. For evolution to take place, there needs to be several different things.
I see.
And there's several different ways evolution can take place.
So
Like
could you
this guy-
have a species that evolves a lot in like a very short amount of generations?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably like the cichlids.
So then is there any significance to the generation number
Well, when you actually figure out the rate of change
of that particular
Yeah.
species?
for a trait
Oh, okay.
within the species,
Yeah.
you can actually we use delta Z. So in evolution, we use Z for a trait value.
Okay.
We use Z bar for mean trait value within a
Okay.
population.
Let's try to keep the math a little as low as
we can-
possible.
and basically, delta Z bar tells us how much of a change we expect in a population in a given trait across a single generation.
Okay.
And so you can toss in a bunch of weird calculus to figure it out, but or predict it. And then within the field of qualitative genetics, you can actually predict how much something will change in a certain generation.
Wow.
And there are several factors that can influence this. One of which is how much genetic variance there is for that trait. And another is how strong selection is on that trait. So if you have a lot of genetic variance, and that means that, within that population, there's a lot of variability with that trait genetically. And then there's also a lot of selection on it. You could see huge amounts of change within a single generation. Now, if there's not that much, it's going to just progress very, 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 very slowly.
Right.
And my whole dissertation is based around how it's important to look at multiple life stages with this sort of stuff. And there's been literature published on how basically that rate of evolution could tell us if a population and a species is going to survive climate change.
Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When species evolve, we know that DNA has like some kind of marker, right?
When do you mean?
So let's say this: if a species evolves, let's say a bird, like we were talking about earlier with bird beaks, the bird, let's say, has a large beak and then it evolves to have a small beak.
Yes.
Is there genetic information left over about them having the large beak?
So if we go into the genome, and they evolved to have small beaks, you said.
Yeah.
Is there genetic information suggesting that they used to have large beaks?
Yes.
So I guess in functional genomics, you could probably figure that out. But I think that there are ways to determine that. If you know that, because you've seen phylogenies before, those family tree things.
Yeah.
Where it says like, you see all the way at the bottom, like a plant, and then might see like some sort of chordate. Then you see like chimps, and you see humans and stuff.
This is the path of progression.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So phylogeny.
We just
talked
see like
about-
a trait, a map of traits.
You see, you can
no?
use traits for that, but
Yeah,
usually most people use genetics. I don't trust traits for it for the most part. So if you actually look at phylogenies, PHYLOG
ENY.
Yeah.
it kind of gives you an information of what species is more closely related to another. And it doesn't say
okay.
the path of progression because path of progression suggests that you came from chimpanzees, whereas the phylogeny tells you that you and chimpanzees shared a common ancestor more recently than you shared a common ancestor with like a flower.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you came from a flower.
But we've talked about this in private before, phylogeny charts or tables.
Yeah.
And you've told me that they actually were wrong when you learned them initially.
Yeah. So within biology, usually how they teach phylogeny, that they say, okay, look at all these traits. Which ones do you think are more closely related to each other than others? And that's historically how phylogenies were constructed in order to measure relatedness. And it works. It works kind of well. It worked kind of well. You know, if I go and I find a chimpanzee, say, well, chimpanzee and a human being share more traits than a chimpanzee, than a human and a worm. They're probably more close related to each other. That works. However, convergent evolution, where similar environments can make certain body plans arise between unrelated species, throws that into a loop. For example, if I got the thylacine, the Tasmanian or whatever, what do you call it, Tasmanian tiger or the
Devil?
the Tasmanian devil is still alive, but the thylacine is it was this predator that lived over with all the other marsupials. It is marsupial, but it kind of had these. It kind of looked like a cat.
Right,
Okay.
right.
It kind of looked like
a
a predatory cat or dog or something. If I were to look at the traits between that and like a weasel or a wolf, I might say this thing's more closely related than it is to a wombat, but it's more closely related to a wombat because they're both marsupials.
But
basically, they taught us these morphological traits, and they taught us how to use these morphological traits to make phylogenies. But essentially, everyone already understands that genetic information is a lot more informative, tells you a lot more stuff. You can find a lot of animals that look exactly alike that are actually two different species. For example, the species I worked on in my undergraduate was a sea slug called Alderia willowi. Up until 2007, they thought that the species I worked on was just a southern variant of a species that lived up north, Alderia modesta. But with genetic information, you're able to deconstruct that. Now, if you were just to look at physical characteristics, you would say, oh, this population is just smaller. That's it. Bada bing, bada boom, there it is. But there's several different things from their DNA.
That's interesting. Why would a sea slug in the north evolve so similarly to a sea slug in the south?
I don't know the evolutionary history of this species, but it seemed as though maybe willowi came from Modesta. I know that Modesta lived all the way up in Maine before that the ice melted over there. It somehow remigrated over there. So somehow it was there in the ocean, ice. It got separated and then it came back over. At least as far as what I can tell.
Okay.
Some people might correct me.
But you don't want to go beyond that.
I don't know which one came first or second, and sometimes evolution doesn't need a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's several ways evolution can take place. The only way that evolution can end up in some sort of adaptive result is if it's evolution through natural selection. There's several different things like gene flow, genetic drift, and migration that could affect evolution, that could lead to a new species. Like, think about it. Why do sloths exist?
They're the most useless animal.
They probably
they're the most they seem like the most likely animal to get killed.
Yeah, I mean, even then with snails, why do snails? Why don't they just they're mollusks? Why don't they just evolve to be like octopus and smart and fast?
Yeah,
because evolution doesn't need to have a reason. Evolution is often thought of as something that has a purpose, but is a process that just exists.
Well, its purpose is survivability, correct?
No, there is no purpose to evolution, because evolution through natural selection leads to adaptation, which increases fitness.
Right,
and fitness is by not always increase survival. I mean, fitness could increase just amount of. I mean, an increase of fitness could come from dying early, but increasing the amount of offspring you produce.
Right.
So
I guess fitness is the bottom line.
Fitness is
for evolution.
Fitness for evolutionary reasons is the only way that you can actually end up getting a species to be better for its environment. Everything else is neutral or goes in any direction. Like genetic drift could either go in a good way, good direction, or bad direction, but that's mostly based off it's mostly affected by the population size. So
really, the richer humans are, the worse your fitness is. So really, the
Not
best
necessarily.
thing to do is just be poor.
basically that it's kind of weird because I mean there was I forgot what movie it was in, but there was a quote where they said that evolution by natural selection doesn't really affect human beings anymore because the young, dumb, and stupid, the intelligent don't reproduce more than the unintelligent. In fact, I know tons of intelligent people who just opted out of having children because they had to work so much or don't want to
They've
deal
been
with them.
getting a PhD till they're 40 years old.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also, I mean, it can be difficult to have a child when you work a very intensive job.
Yeah.
Whereas, the other times it's different. I remember that I was talking with a friend 2 days ago. She was telling me how she sent me a picture about hurricane babies. I was like, hurricane babies? What do you mean? What does that even? Hurricane babies. It turns out that a lot of babies are born in June in certain regions because when the hurricane knocks out power and they don't work, all they do is make babies.
Oh, very interesting.
So
that
leisure
sounds like
time.
my neighbors.
So imagine if you're out there.
They were certainly trying, it sounded like.
Man.
leisure time.
When they're
you know?
bored and the power's
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
there's no entertainment. Imagine if you're out there on some island. You're good and you hunted for the day. You got your fish or whatever. You got some rainwater. You're healthy. There's no enemy tribes or dangerous megafauna nearby that want to kill you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, you got the free time.
A lot of
man.
times that's what they did, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was a form
Interesting.
of entertainment, and that was before a lot of contraception. And also in a lot of places where even out here where, people do have a lot of sex still, contraception and education
Yeah.
on contraception is much better than other places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, back in the day, a lot of people wanted to get married so they can have sex freely because it meant that you would have a child with somebody who you liked or something,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas nowadays condoms are cheap.
Yep.
You can get all
free.
sorts. Yeah, you can get free condoms. Knowledge on STIs could prevent people from making unwise decisions sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a lot of places, education also means a lot.
Yeah.
man. Well, I kind of wanted to ask you since you're here.
Mhm.
There's I guess this will be the last thing we can sort of topic we can cover, but I was reading about it kind of came up in the news briefly. This thing about population, what is the word they used? Sort of sustainability, where they're worried that the developed countries and stuff, and even China, because they had a one-child policy for a while, that
Yeah.
there would be a population collapse, where
Yeah.
we can't for some reason sustain the level of population we need.
This was Elon Musk and Jack Ma were talking about this
It
during
was
their
trending
little
on Twitter or
symposium
something.
thing. Yeah.
It was trending for a
Okay.
while.
I have a personal opinion about that. I think
Uh-huh.
that large human populations is damaging, not because we don't have enough resources to take care of human beings, but because of the damage we do to everything. We have enough food on the planet to feed every single person, make sure they're not starving. We have enough money.
I
and
would
enough
tell that to
resources.
Africa again.
Do we tell that to Africa? Even to Africa. In America, look how much food waste we throw away.
Oh,
The
you're
hu-
saying we have the means.
We have enough
just don't.
resources. We don't use them properly. We have enough resources to end the world hunger now, but we just won't. And if you look at the average amount of food that people are eating, right? It's at least in America and a lot of developed countries, it's usually far above their total daily energy expenditure. Hence why a lot of people gain weight, because they eat far more than what's needed to maintain
Right,
biological
right.
function.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that we can reduce how much we're using. If it's a space issue, go drive around the United States. I want you to drive from Florida to Washington and tell me how many big cities that are super dense you see.
Yeah.
We got space everywhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, even though a lot of that is farmland, especially in the Midwest, a lot of that stuff is just like woods that haven't
Right.
even been touched.
Right.
We have enough space and we have enough resources for a lot more. It's just that the damage we do with only like 7 billion and 8 billion is very
Only.
catastrophic.
Only.
It's increasing.
What is the cap, do you think?
What's the cap?
Do you know, off the top of your head, do you know what the Earth sustains, how many humans can the Earth sustain?
Probably just the surface area of the Earth and get the average surface area or the average volume of a human, or no,
Like,
I guess the cross-sectional area of a human, and then see how many you can stack up
well,
on land.
no, the human
no
densities.
clue. No clue because
I kind of want to see what the upper limit is, right? And then
well, I mean, I remember that I was watching some sort of video where they looked at the walled city in China, where I think they had one of the highest human densities ever. It was like insane. They said that if you made the entire United States into to like the wall of that walled city of China level of density. You get somewhere insane like 40 billion.
Wow, I can see that.
And
though.
that's like using like every square inch of the United States.
Right,
But for
We're
that walled city.
sardined.
Yeah, well, the walled city out there in China, they're still able to live. You know,
Oh, that's true. They're
So
not
there's-
even sardined.
they're not even sardined.
Oh,
no.
okay, wow.
So they're not even sardined, and that's only the United States. The United States is still smaller than Canada, Africa,
yeah,
Right.
you know, China, Russia, all of Asia. We have a lot of space on the planet. It's just a matter of how we're partitioning our resources, especially given that the most powerful countries on the planet are capitalist right now. They, for the most part, don't like to really evenly distribute resources. You gotta have. There's very few people with a lot of resources. There's people who don't, and there's a lot of people who don't have as many. And so we have these resources. They're just not being put to use in a way that benefits everybody.
I see. So like the population collapse is kind of a thing that's brought on by like some of the people who own capital and aren't really sort of allocating it in a way that makes the most sense for the whole economy. Because like if you're a capitalist, rationally speaking, you would want the modern economy to flow as best as it can, right?
Yeah.
So like a population collapse isn't going to work in your favor. Like
No,
you know what I mean?
exactly. And so if you want consumers,
Sure.
But
And
but also with a capitalistic society. Oh, you mean okay? We're talking about a general society though of capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. There might be some non-intuitive perk for capitalism where if you have a collapse, you actually do make more money.
I'm pretty sure there would be people who make more money off.
But that'd be
collapse.
short
For
term.
for
Like it
sure,
wouldn't
yeah.
be.
It could be long term though too. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that
Because if you have some sort of product that people are only going to purchase if shit gets real,
yeah.
then yeah, it's like when you
Well, not only that though.
remember the nuclear scare, right? That when they had all those nuclear scares, people started buying a bunch of iodine, I think, because they said that it could counteract radioactive stuff and people would consume it. But
I bought some when Trump went in office. I was like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna have some iodine tablets just in case."
just in case,
What is it used for?
nuclear stuff. I
It
don't know how
helps. It
works.
helps. Iodine helps kind of attach to, I think some particles, some radioactive particles. So
This is
you
some
don't.
homeopathy one.
No. There's some
It's
science
real,
behind it.
apparently.
There's some real
Okay.
science shit. But
Okay.
like, it helps you protect yourself from like the first couple moments of radiation exposure,
Yes.
and then
Interesting.
Also,
but it's
if,
not
if-
permanent.
if there's an easy way, I mean, if you just think about compound interest, then if you had a collapse, like 40% of America got killed off by something that's known, and everyone's freaking out, so they rush to say Walmart to buy a bunch of water or buy a bunch of flashlights or something, and you just happen to be a water merchant or flashlight merchant, you can make a ton of money, and then after our first $1 million,
Hold that camera to your mouth.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Because
sorry.
like I can hear you in the mic, and then like when you turn around away, it sounds like you're talking in the distance.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, you point at the cat. I was like,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
But anyway,
No, she's fine.
yeah, and I'm kind of looking around what I'm thinking. But basically, with compound interest, if you have $1 million at like a 7%, interest rate, you don't have to do anything else. Like you can make like another like $2.4 million in 10, 20 years without doing anything with that, even off of just one burst of someone buying your stuff.
yeah.
So in that sense, you could make money.
Opportunity off of disaster.
Yes, opportunity off of disaster.
Sure.
But if you're looking at the society itself as opposed to a single dude,
Yeah.
probably not. So,
But the thing is, like, this is what I'm also thinking is, with our capitalistic framework that we already exist in, not everyone in our population works. So if we have 40 billion strong, let's say, how many of those people would actually be working?
Well, I think it depends on the climate for what jobs are available.
Yeah.
I mean, because we have more people than we have ever had in the United States, but people talk about unemployment all the time because lots of times these jobs that normally you just need to have a high school diploma for now require you to have like a master's.
Do you guys know unemployment right now?
I think it went down recently.
Yeah, but they've redefined it throughout the years. To
Okay.
kind of,
Well, how many people work? Do we
I don't know.
percentage-wise?
It depends on
I
the
don't know.
metrics, man. If you look at some metrics, some people say like we're at 30% unemployment.
Yeah,
but
are you at a dead end job? Are you at a career? Are you at a temporary position?
Right,
or
right.
a contract?
Yeah.
Or if you're like a plumber and you just do contracts
Right.
somewhere as opposed to like a salary job,
Right.
those
Yeah.
things change.
I think
it.
full-time jobs are much less like, career shit.
Mhm.
Right.
Those jobs are much more rare, I think,
Yeah.
Right.
'Cause,
nowadays.
I mean, I know a guy who moved out here to Florida. He moved out right outside of Tampa, and he had a degree in business, and he was kind of like straddling a 2.0 the entire time. Like sometimes it's 1.9, sometimes it's 2.3 the entire time. Not exactly a model student, but basically he left California and he moved to Tampa, and he was able to get a job out in Tampa that said that he needed to have a master's for back in California. This job was at Enterprise, though.
Jesus.
Why do you need
The
to
car dealership?
Yeah,
Yes.
the
The car rental.
Yeah.
Yes, and the sort of
Jesus.
position you need.
That's where we're at now.
If you can sign it, if you do arithmetic and sign your name and tell people when to come in on time,
Yeah.
you could do that job. You don't
Yeah.
need a diploma for it, let alone a master's. So, I mean, I just think it's like the climate that we're in. I mean, you
Yeah,
hear about
yeah.
tech companies. A lot of these tech companies that used to say you need to have this degree and that degree are now saying, well, if you can code and you can prove it to us, we might take you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're moving away from it. Like Google's trying to see if they
Yeah.
can hire people who just have talent coding, because a lot of people sit in their basement coding all day long and they just don't have a degree, but they're great coders.
Right.
Yeah.
So you hear about
Yeah,
these
it's
high
kind of
school-
crazy. I feel like I've been in school my whole life doing a lot of things, yet when I apply for jobs, I feel like I'm underqualified for everything.
Yeah.
At least with the requirements they give. I'm like,
Oh.
wow, I can't do anything.
Well, there's an internship at my undergrad that said that you need to have a degree in biology before you can go into an unpaid internship.
Yeah.
And you know what the internship was?
What?
You're shoveling. You're at a rescue and you're shoveling big cat shit.
Fuck.
Yes, you're shoveling poo from lions and tigers, but you did, and it was unpaid.
That's an opportunity, son.
Yeah, it was an opportunity. It was a big cat rescue. You did not need to have a degree to shovel stuff, and it's
Right.
unpaid. And trust and believe, if you said that you could have shown up for 6 hours that day, they're gonna replace you because somebody's desperate enough to take it.
Damn,
Ah,
dude.
that's
It's rough out
infuriating.
there.
It's infuriating.
That's
man.
what. I mean, why do you think I left? Why do you think I left California? But that's
It's
where
bad.
we're at, I think, right now. And also, that's
Yeah.
why I think that we could probably find way more jobs. But then nowadays, people people work more. Think about all the
They do.
Yeah.
people work more. I think.
Dude, I've
So it's kind of bad on both sides. The people who are still there, still have to work. They don't necessarily get paid as much.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't want to hire new people to do jobs that generally would have been separate. My
Right.
mom works at like 3 different places on Camp Pendleton.
jeez.
Like she proctors like military exams. I mean,
Yeah.
like the ASVABs, and she also like works in like a surplus store or something.
That's brutal, man.
Modern-
Yeah.
the boomer
We got to do something
economy,
about this.
bro.
That's what I'm saying. More entrepreneurship. More entrepreneurship.
I mean, you have no choice sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
It's like
well,
I'm unemployed, so I'm an
unemployed.
entrepreneur.
I might as well try to find something that's going to get me some money.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
they know that because so many people are like, I'm so desperate, I'll do whatever it takes to get myself in.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't really hurt them, and people who are already there say, "Oh, well, since that person left, you guys got to cover for him." And it's already hard to live in America in a lot of places. All these predatory
Yeah, yeah,
landlords and leases.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you think about all these, the cost of living, taxes are changing, but the cost of living is increasing every year. But how much people are getting paid isn't increasing nearly as much. It should,
Right.
you would think it should increase proportionally, but it doesn't. Like one of the reasons why tuition went up in college is not because college got more expensive, but it's because they started taking away public funds that are going into schools and putting them more towards the military effort
Right.
for an effort that most people in America don't even agree with.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, man. What time are we looking at?
Boomer
90.
economy, bro. Yeah, we're gonna max out right now.
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead
But yeah,
and end it.
well, Jackson, it was fun.
Yeah, man. Pleasure for you coming out again, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we could literally talk like
Oh,
about
yeah.
anything.
But we don't want this whole audio being dumb, so we gotta cut it now.
Yeah.
All right.
My RAM maxes out at like 90.
Okay.
90 minutes.
All right.
But appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And stick
Yeah.
around for the outro.
Yes.
Damn,
son, where'd you find
where'd you
that?
find this?
Hey guys, thank you for staying and listening this long.
You're good people.
Yeah, we
The
appreciate
best
it.
people.
We appreciate it. You know, as usual, comment, like, subscribe, all that. Follow our Twitter at Eigenbros.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you guys love us really a lot, support us on Patreon.
Oh
And
shit!
that's,
This guy's bringing in the cash money.
If you want, don't feel any pressure to.
Share. Actually, I want. If you guys like it, share it. You know, share it with your friends, your family, your little twin sibling if you have one.
Your
we have a
locked up
demographic.
cousin in the basement.
Sure, yeah, you know, if you want to use that word, but you know.
That's true. That's a infraction today, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. Might have to beep that one. I don't know. We'll see if I'm feeling like it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
I don't know what that means, to play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?